Oh, hello there. Yes, well, I'm pleased to say I'm feeling better. Immune system's still all over the place, but definitely on the mend. Anyway, today I want to talk just a little bit more about economics because at the moment I'm doing quite a lot of reading on concepts of the commons and issues about the way that land is distributed and the resources upon it, and whether or not we can have a modern commons, one might say, as we used to have in the past, which provided subsistence for the people as and when they needed it. An idea that was very much poo-pooed by utilitarians back in the 16th and 17th century, something we're very much living with to this day. And I got to reading Elinor Ostrom, who is the first woman back in 2009 to win the Nobel Prize for Economics. And that got me thinking about, I was thinking, 2009, that's sort of quite recent, and odd that she's the first woman to some of the other Nobel Prize winners. And the first black guy back in 79 to win was Sir Arthur Lewis. I think he was Trinidadian, or maybe Tobago, one of the two. And the first Asian guy, again, I think this century, was Amrita Sen. And that's it, though. That's the odd thing about it, right, okay, is she's the first and only woman, he's the first and only black guy, and he's the first and only Asian guy out of 50 plus other winners. And I got to thinking about my favourite cartoons about economists, which is this one. Yes, which I think neatly sums it all up. And it's very much the world we're living in at the moment. I mean, there was a big hope, back in 1990 plus, when the Berlin Wall had come down, that there would be a kind of social democratic, technocratic, capitalist revolution whereby everybody would agree what needed to be done and the world would work. I mean, you can see that with sort of like, Blair and Gordon Brown and the others, this idea that we know how things work now and everything's going to be fine. And certainly before the 2008 crash, you could see that. I remember an interview with Alan Greenspan, who argued that because risk had been spread throughout the system, that everything would be fine. Anyway, leaving that aside, yes. But, the mere fact that the economics that we have is so governed by people who aren't women, who aren't black, who aren't from the global south, is perhaps one of the reasons why we are in the mess that we're in. Because some idiot like me would actually argue that economics should serve people. We should have an economic system which rationally doesn't crash every 7, 8, 9, 10 years to the detriment of the majority. And yet we're not allowed to live in that world because, after all, that would be communism. And yet, whenever you're sort of sitting there maybe thinking about whether or not to boil the water in your tap because you can't quite trust it, it might be worthwhile sort of thinking that perhaps every solution that we have to today's problems ends up always looking like socialism. It always looks like a sort of common idea about how we go forwards, yeah? Don't like all the stuff that's being pumped into your water supply. Well, how about we just own it collectively? Don't like paying such high prices for trains. How about we own it collectively? Don't like the fact that you can't get on the housing ladder. How about we own collectively the land so we can do things? Ooh, sounds like communism. Yes, I suppose it does. But practical solutions to things often do sound like communism. And we can either, as a society, decide to make things work for the vast majority or not. But then you end up with the problem that the vast majority might get a bit hacked off and might sort of eventually decide that those pitchforks and flaming torches are looking like a good idea. Anyway, links down below. If you want to have a look at those people further, I can seriously recommend the stuff from Elinor. You can also read Peter Linehan if you want. Almost anything from him is absolutely superb and is an absolute treasure trove. It's one of those things whereby you suddenly go, wow, I wish I'd read this 20 years ago. Anyway, do have a lovely day, do enjoy, and remember, productive.